All right, hello everyone. We are back with another episode of Interview with a Dhampir. Preacher, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am simply vibing.
That's good. Alright, so the basic format, as always, is I will go over the information in the panels, and then I will give extra information that I think is necessary, and then once we're done with the panel, we will enter into the question and answer segment of the panels. This is an interview with a Dhampir, episode 2. We're going to be going over the Leeches, the Venthyr of World of Warcraft, and the basic overview of the clans of the Masquerade. And now question and answer. Are there any questions about this panel?
Yeah, what's the Clans of the Masquerade?
No. All right. So, first things first in this beautiful slideshow, I just want to say, I'm sorry. So, last time that we talked, I said that I was going to be covering Vampire the Masquerade, and if we run out of information from there, I would move on to Hunter the Hunting. Funny story, actually. Vampire the Masquerade is a small part of a bigger world, which is called World of Darkness, and Hunter the Hunting is a story within World of Darkness about the vampires of the Masquerade from the perspective of hunters who are just basic humans trying to kill supernatural entities. So, when I said that I was going to go from Vampire the Masquerade to the World of Darkness, I said I was going to go from a pond to the exact same pond, and I want to apologize. Werewolves, they are so much deeper than what I said before because of the fact that I was looking at the Vampire the Masquerade information about werewolves rather than the World of Darkness information about them. So now there's so much more I know about werewolves that we're not going to go over because this is a vampire show, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry.
How dare you be wrong and spout misinformation?
It wasn't, everything I said was correct. It just wasn't enough information. Any questions about the panel?
Yeah. Why are you sorry?
Okay, next panel. Age and how it affects vampires. As with lots of things, age only makes one better, wiser, and equips you with more to handle the problems as they arise. To vampires in most universes, age symbolizes power. It tends to point to how many they have sired and thus how many forces they have to fight with. When trying to get one over on an enemy at negotiations, you would rather be talking to a 100-year-old vampire rather than a 1,000-year-old vampire. And some vamps can live even longer than that. And lastly, vampires do tend to just get stronger as they age. In a lot of universes, the more blood you drink increases your power, which means the older you are, the more blood you drank. Sometimes it is just a fact of how old you are makes you stronger. Sometimes it's a fact of how many people you've sired, and sometimes the power that they gain will like funnel up to you because you're the one that sired them. So generally, age just makes you a better vampire. Any questions about this panel?
Can I make a comment instead of a question?
Do whatever you want.
So, as some of you may know, I am 831 years old. I was born in 1293. My body physically stopped aging when I was about 24. What's up?
Continue.
I might have my numbers wrong.
Continue.
1193? My math is bad.
So you turn 832 this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Turn 832 this year.
Why don't you just turn 831 this year? Just cut off the extra number.
Because we're born in August.
Oh. Of course. Alright, so you're 831 right now. And you're a Dhampir.
I haven't really felt the need to grow stronger. But where did you get this information about the more blood you drink, the stronger you get?
Because we've had this conversation.
Blood is just a life
so
fuel.
many times.
Yeah.
Yes, life fuel. And you know what you do with fuel? You burn it.
You use it to keep
people,
going.
Yeah, some people can use that to keep going, and any extra is turned into more power. It's different universes. You have to understand, not everything follows the rules of your universe. We've been over this.
Yeah, and I'm asking you what universe you got this from.
A bunch of them. I conglomerate information. If you want information on a specific universe, that is where the recommendations come from.
Of course.
All extra information is simply conglomerated and given as a more brief overview.
Of course.
Any other questions or comments about this panel?
No.
Okay. Age and how it affects vampires continued. Of course, time is not just a means to gain power. It also gives experience, and that can be a double-edged sword, as once you have experienced enough, it can feel that most things become far too predictable, and so the older a vamp gets, the more likely they are to fall into a sort of malaise, and simply sleep a century away, as nothing that happens would be enough to keep them interested, thus leaving them to possibly lose all they have built up as those who hunger for more than entertainment pick up the pieces that a bored elder vampire has dropped. In short, old vampires either grow obsessive or bored, and you want neither of those to pay close attention to you because they have hundreds, if not thousands of years practice dealing with people like you. So as I go over more extensively here, the boredom of age and the boredom of the years gone by is definitely something that comes up a lot in these kinds of topics. Generally, a vampire that gets bored will have their manor and they will be asleep under it for thousands of years, and while their sires protect their body or protect their fortune, and if something interesting happens or they need to be woken up to do something, that's generally what they do, and then right after they'll just go back to being asleep because they're bored of it all. The second option, as I go over a little bit, is to grow obsessive. There are vampires in universes where after their 1,000 years of life, they've determined that they want to catalog and understand every version of insects that exist. So their manor will become a planetarium of every kind of insect. They'll have dioramas of insects. They'll know exactly how all of the pheromones, how their bodies work, how the exoskeleton of this is different from the exoskeleton of that. And then there are some vampires who become obsessed with power, with blood. There's thousands of different ways age can affect a vampire, and almost all of them make them horrible company. Do you have any comments or questions about this panel?
Double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. I thought you did that on purpose.
No.
No. I mean, nah.
Okay. Coffins and manors. In most universes, you will see vampire fashion and decor revolve around coffins and manors generally. This is because building next to or on top of the dirt of your homeland or where you died leads to either power being more easily gained or some protection from your power being lost. And why rebuild what you already have when everything you do is perfect? The coffin thing is... they love to be overdramatic. I mean, it gets them closer to the feeling of death or something. In short, vampires just like coffins and manors because it reminds them of what they lost when they turned, and those they sire follow suit because the one that sired them clearly knows something that they don't about fashion or power, or renown. As I said, the general belief of vampires in a lot of universes is to build where you died, is to protect or gain more power from the earth in some way. To be dead but still animated is generally a sin against the natural order of the universe. So anything you can do to circumvent that and lessen the price you have to pay for your own sin is generally why manors are built. And instead of moving somewhere else, they'll just keep building on top of their manor. Because, as is always, the worst sin of a vampire is going to be pride. Anything you'd like to comment or question about?
You ever slept in a coffin?
No.
Oh, they're pretty cozy.
I exist solely cozy. Everything I do is cozy.
Yeah, you get a nice padded coffin. nice and dark. Oh, it's very nice.
Of course.
Some of them have a mini bar inside of them.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the vampires that I know, they just sleep in coffins just because they're cozy. And they're also very easy to move around.
Why would you need to? You're a vampire. You can move a king-size bed as easily as you can move a nail on the floor, right?
Yeah, but with a king-size bed, you have to move the bed, you have to move the covers and all the blankets. With a coffin, you don't have to worry about stuff getting in. It's nice and cozy. It's smaller. Coffins are just a lot more convenient.
Oh, of course.
Also, have you seen the price of mattresses?
Yeah.
Thousands.
You're a vampire. You specifically have had 800 years to amass wealth. Imagine every other vampire with the same, but instead of wanting validation on the internet, they want, power and political acclaim and enough money to buy the universe. They can afford a mattress.
There's not a single vampire out there that wants to deal with the IRS. Do you know how hard it is to keep the wealth that you have amassed?
Oh my god. Any other questions or comments?
The government took everything from me. Anyways.
Let it know?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, and now we start with the real. The Leech, or the scientific name for a leech, Hirodinia. Closely related to worms, this hermaphroditic creature lives off the blood of its victims, often unnoticed till it has had its fill. Its long body is made up of soft muscular segments, which most leeches have either between 32 or 34, which is different from worms, which have an indeterminate amount. When a leech is born, it will have the amount of segments that it'll have when it dies, whereas a worm just keeps getting them. Made up of soft muscular segments which it can lengthen and contract in order to move or swim as it chooses, since it is known to be found in terrestrial and freshwater marine environments. There are some that exist in saltwater, but it's far fewer than the amount that exists in freshwater. All leeches have hirudin, which keeps blood from clotting. It will bite down with teeth or insert a proboscis and drink its fill. It is alive, it is sentient, and it creates more of itself by laying eggs. So while not perfectly matching up, I believe that a leech could make it in vampire society with their incredible stealth skills and medicinal mastery. The reason why I put medicinal mastery is humans have been using leeches for medicinal stuff for 1,000 years, or a little bit more than 1,000 years. No, but definitely thousands of years. So yeah, I think leeches are great and wonderful. They lay eggs in like a cocoon, which there's so many of them. And much like vampires, leeches, you can determine if leeches exist in colonies or if they exist as separate entities based on what they do with their eggs. Some leeches carry the cocoon of their eggs with them and will raise the leeches alongside them, while others will just lay the cocoon and leave. Which I think is pretty neat. Any questions or comments about the leech?
Yes, actually. I don't know much about leeches. I know that they like to drink blood. They're used in like hospitals to drain bad blood.
They were used in hospitals to drain bad blood, yes.
They can still be used in hospitals.
They are not used in hospitals.
Okay, anyways. You say that they're closely related to worms. If you were to cut a leech in half, would it be able to recover, or is it just dead?
It's just dead.
Okay.
Also, worms can't do that either.
What?
Don't look it up right now. We'll look it up after this.
They're hermaphroditic, so can they reproduce asexually? Like, they just lay their eggs and their eggs
The common answer is no, but there have been times where lone leeches will exist in an environment and suddenly there are more leeches. We have no solid proof that they do it, but leeches do just tend to appear if there's only one leech by itself.
So they need another leech to fertilize the eggs that they lay?
Yep.
Interesting. I thought that, they were also kind of like mosquitoes, where they inject some sort of toxin to make it so that your blood doesn't clot.
Hirudin. All leeches have hirudin, which keeps blood from clotting. And it's also a slight numbing agent so that it won't be noticed.
Okay. The wording on that was just kind of interesting. So
Okay.
I had to make sure. Okay, I'm good.
Alright.
Leeches are cool.
Leeches are cool. And next we move on to the myth. We are covering the Venthyr from the World of Warcraft, but the problem that we run into is the Venthyr exist within the Shadowlands, and there's a lot of stuff about the Shadowlands that exists that has nothing to do with the Venthyr, such as the main storyline told within World of Warcraft. I will be avoiding talking about the main story of World of Warcraft. I will just focus as much as I can on the Venthyr and Revendreth specifically of Shadowlands. So I will be glossing over or skipping some stuff that is tangentially connected, but I don't care about. So, the myth, Shadowlands and important characters. In World of Warcraft, the afterlife has been cataloged and mapped. It is an infinite expanse that if a culture has a belief about what their afterlife will look like, it will appear, and they will go there. It might not always be exactly what they say it is, but generally it is tied to a cultural belief, and it all runs on anima. And thus, Revendreth, home of the Venthyr, exists as a place where those whose list of sins is too long, they will go there. To be sent to Revendreth is to be condemned to either accepting your sins and growing as a soul, or be crushed under the weight of your very literal sin stone. But just know you are lucky. There's a place for those who are deemed irredeemable, and you aren't there. Any questions or comments? If you ask a question about something that I'm covering in like the next panel, I'll just say it's in the next panel.
What is anima?
It's in the next panel.
Okay. And what is a sin stone?
It's in the next panel.
It's in the next panel. Are you going to cover the other places of
No, I'm not covering Maldraxxus or any of the other places.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good then.
All right. So we will be covering in this panel right now Sire Denathrius, Ramornia, Sin Stones, and Anima. We'll be starting with Sire Denathrius. So, as I said, the Shadowlands exists. Because it's World of Warcraft, it is made by people who love to tell stories that ruin themselves if you listen to them. Sire Denathrius is a robot created by gods who created gods who created gods who exist in Zereth Mortis. He is... That's all the information I'm giving you about that. We will now move to how he exists within Revendreth. Sire Denathrius is the sire of sires, the master of masters, the ruler of Revendreth. Everything that happens there in some way, shape, or form goes past him in order to be happening there. A lot of the higher up lieutenants were created directly from Sire Denathrius, either using his own anima or something else's anima. Next is Ramornia. Ramornia is Sire Denathrius' sword. As we talked about in the first episode, life-stealing swords are not vampires, but if that sword had sentience and sapience, it would be a vampire. That is what Ramornia is. Ramornia is alive and in love with Sire Denathrius. And it feeds on anima. Sin stones are the physical manifestation of soul's sins and how they affect them. So, like, if you take a character like, oh god, I forgot his name, the Blood Elf Prince, who's in Revendreth. Oh no.
Anastarian?
Yeah, sure. The guy who sold his entire people. Kael'thas, yeah. His sin stone effectively says this soul harbors the sin of pride. He sold his people into slavery in order to give himself another hit of fell magic. Blah, 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 blah. Anima. Anima is the thing that makes a soul, makes the ground, makes a weapon able to fire, makes the walls stable. It is the quote-unquote lifeblood of the afterlife. If a soul runs out of anima, they cease to exist. You feed yourself using the latent anima in the food that you eat. It is everything that is everything in the Shadowlands. And the Revendreth people of the Shadowlands factions we know are the best at manipulating it because they flay it from your flesh. They are able to siphon anima from you near painlessly, and they can do it as painfully as possible because emotion and sin either taints or flavors your anima. And certain members of the Venthyr faction enjoy certain tastes of the anima. So they'll do stuff in order to flavor it in the way that they want it to be. Any questions or comments about this one?
Are you going over more of it in the next panel?
Ask your question and I'll let you know. I would much prefer you ask me more questions than to not ask the question you want to ask.
I apologize. Who is that in that fourth picture?
That's Garrosh.
Mm-hmm. What's happening to him?
He's... I go over it in another panel.
Okay. What makes Sire Denathrius a vampire?
He drinks the lifeblood of the people around him. He creates more, and he's called a sire. He uses relatively blood-related magic. He has mind control over a lot of people using artifacts he has.
And what about Romornia?
Romornia eats soul essence and really likes Sire Denathrius.
Mm-hmm. Please, sir, might I rend their flesh? It's been so long.
Yeah.
What happens after we kill Denathrius?
Romornia eats Sire Denathrius, but as I said, I'm trying to avoid this actual storyline because there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't want to explain.
Okay. You can go ahead and go to the next panel.
Okay. No questions about Sinstones?
What is the biggest Sinstone?
The biggest Sinstone?
Mm-hmm.
The size of them is relative. It tends to be the longer you hold off, the bigger it gets. It doesn't really get longer the more sins you commit. It's just kind of like a thing that's strapped to your back until you resolve that you we go over the atonement ritual later on, and I can explain the 2 times we've seen it happen in the game. Another thing about Sinstones that I forgot to mention was Sinstones have power over you. We go over becoming a Venthyr in a little bit, but I'll go over a little bit now so I can explain better. Once you're done with the atonement ritual in the Venthyr area, you still have your Sinstone. It just depends on how much power it has over you. If you were turned into a Venthyr and you've accepted the sins that you've committed, but they still hold power over you, someone can hold your Sinstone and compel you to do what they want you to do. That is why there are quests in World of Warcraft of getting people's Sinstones and giving them back to the people who were being controlled so that they can be free. And there's also a fact of if someone is using your Sinstone, they can use it to take control of you. They can also use it to weaken you in order to kill you easier.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we have a Sinstone?
No, we don't have a Sinstone because we didn't die.
Oh, okay. I'm good.
The Venthyr can. Now that we've covered Revendreth and the important people, we can cover the Venthyr in general. To be Venthyr is to be judge, jury, and if necessary, executioner for the souls deemed sinful. You are to determine what would best rehabilitate them based on their Sinstone, be that torture, hard labor, or a softer touch in mediation and deep conversation. They'll most simply choose to punish you with the sins you committed as read on your Sinstone. They tend to feed upon the anima of the souls brought before them, and each sin that is cleansed and suffering releases more anima from the soul that then goes back to the afterlife once they're done with it. The anima keeps everything stable. It's a very vague thing. Of course, politics exists as it does in most vampiric societies, so the haves will always try to put down the have-nots in order to keep their stores of anima and not have to give as much as they should. In Revendreth, there are areas where the impoverished of anima live, where effectively they are cycling through the anima that they have, because if you had enough anima to eat for that day, you are made of anima, so you can siphon some of it off of yourself to feed your sickly friend who doesn't have enough anima to survive for the day. Whereas the haves of vampire society have buckets, have anima to spare. They throw soirees where they have kegs of anima that will simply rain down anima of every sin that you could want to flavor it with, so that you can enjoy it to your heart's content. And then we go over how to get that anima from the people that are under you. We go over specializations a little bit later, but just to get into a little bit of it now. As I said, you can choose how to get the anima from the people that you are rehabilitating in whatever way you want to call that. There is someone called the Houndmaster who pretty much no matter what you did as you were alive, the way that you're going to repent is he is going to send his hounds after you, and they will rip you to shreds, and he will put you back together until you are remorseful of what you've done. There is the Curator, or whatever her name is, who will just grab you by the throat, say, you're going to listen to me, and you're going to listen to yourself, and we are going to have a deep conversation about everything that you've done written on your sin stone until you can explain to me why what you did you think is correct. And if you can't, hey, you're on the right path to atonement. Any questions or comments?
Who determines what a sin is?
God. Next question.
What happens to a soul that is executed?
They're sent to the place where the irredeemable souls go.
What happens if a soul is just killed?
They tend to not be killed because that's a waste of anima. If you kill something, you lose a lot of anima in the transit of their soul being disintegrated. Whereas if you torture them, not only do you get the anima from that torture, you also get the flavor of the torture within that. So generally, you don't die slowly in Revendreth.
But what happens if you're tortured to death?
They got a lot of anima from you.
And then you're just gone?
Yeah, you just stop existing.
Sounds awful.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say that you robbed a store and then burned it down. To punish you for that sin, they would steal your anima and then make you dance in fire?
God, the problem with trying to determine what sins give you what in Revendreth is a problem of if you robbed a store and burned it down, do you feel any form of remorse for that act? If yes, it has to be there has to be some level of remorse in you that believes that you can be redeemed in order to be sent to Venthyr. If you just did it and don't care, then the only other afterlife that we know of that you go to is the Maw. So however you feel bad about the sin you committed is generally how you will atone for that sin, not necessarily the sin itself.
So if Kael'thas thought that he did what was right for his people, why is he in Revendreth? Why is he being redeemed?
Because he knows what he did is wrong, no matter how much he lies to himself about it.
Okay.
Alright.
The boys!
And now we will go over dredgers, stoneborn, and specializations of the Venthyr. So dredger, there is an area within Revendreth called the Dredger Muck. Dredgers are effectively clay golems made from the muck of this specific marsh or swamp that is formed into the tiny creatures you see at the top left, and they are generally the servants of the Venthyr. If you spill your anima on the ground and don't feel like cleaning it up, a dredger will come and clean it up. If you need to build a building, the dredgers will build it. Blah, 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 blah. The dredgers are the lower caste, the sniveling, groveling runts that clean everything up. And then you have the picture right next to it, which is a bunch of dredgers combined into one within the muck of the dredger marsh or whatever it's called. Those are generally you use a dredger to pick up the bricks you need. You use the big dredger to pick up the building or to have a big thing to kill things for you. And then we have the Stoneborn. The Stoneborn are effectively carved creatures because the Venthyr are so good at siphoning anima from a living thing. They know how to make something go from living to dead by how the anima flows through them, which means that they know how the anima can go from something that is dead to living by putting anima into it. So they carve the creature they want from stone and then push the anima into it in order to animate it, and that is the Stoneborn. They are generally soldiers, mounts, whatever you want it to be. And then you have specializations. There are dredger creators who are good at working the muck and creating the best dredgers they can get. There are stonemasons that are good at creating Stoneborn. There are certain Venthyr who specialize in certain sins. So like some will specialize in pride and how to best deal with people whose sins deal in pride, who deal in wrath, who deal in hounds chasing people down, that kind of thing. There are 1,000 Venthyr for 1,000 ways of torture that you need done. And then there are those who specialize in torturing the Venthyr themselves, which we'll go over the main way that Venthyr are tortured in another panel, but we don't really go over it that much. Any questions or comments?
So which one is a Stoneborn? Is it the gargoyle dude or is it the dog?
Both. Oh. The Stoneborn are anything the Venthyr carve from stone and give life.
Okay.
The vats that hold the anima that they have, those are Stoneborn. They're just crafted in a way to hold anima. That's why they're also alive.
Okay. Is that a Sinstone on the big dredger's back?
It's carved to look like one. They just like the aesthetic.
Of course. Okay.
Alright. Venthyr continued. While the goal of absolving a soul's sins gives the most anima, the soul itself is made of anima. So some question, why help them when you can just exsanguinate the soul through horrendous torture and feed on that anima straight from the source? The process of going to Revendreth tends to be die, be deemed full of sin, suffer for your transgressions until deemed worthy of the atonement ritual, and either repent and understand your sins, or remain ignorant and be sent to the irredeemable place. If you do repent, you can choose to either stay and be sired by the person who gave you the ritual and thus become a Venthyr, or be sent back to the Arbiter and be sent to whatever afterlife your newly atoned soul will go to. Any questions or comments?
Who's the Arbiter?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, wouldn't there be like a horrible overpopulation issue if people are redeemed and then turn back? But then you said that they go to their original afterlife. Mm-hmm. So is it like everyone has their own personal afterlife? Or if they're thought of what an afterlife is, would they go to one with other people there?
There you go.
Okay.
They go to whatever afterlife exists in the infinite afterlives that exist that would fit them.
Yeah, I think I'm good then.
Alright. So, Ashghouls in the Ember World, Ashghouls and the Ember Ward, atonement rituals, and mirrors. I'll go backwards order for this one because I think it's funny. In a lot of universes, vampires can't see themselves in mirrors. And a lot of people make the connection, for some reason, that the reason why you can't go through a mirror is because your reflection is there and it's stopping you from going through. So if vampires can't see themselves in the mirror, that means mirrors can act as a portal for vampires. And World of Warcraft has taken that literally and made it so that their control over anima is so good that they are capable of disassembling themselves through their anima and reassembling themselves somewhere else, which is where their Venthyr power of being able to teleport comes from. They can extend this into mirrors, which will allow you to set up two portals effectively. So if you want to visit your friend and you guys talk often, you'll both have mirrors in your mirror room that connect to each other's houses. Atonement rituals. God. In the game, we help with a lot of atonement rituals, but because it's video game gameplay, we don't get the full experience of what it is. We only have Kael'thas as like a full from beginning to end atonement ritual that we see, and the way that his specifically goes under the curator is we find him within Castle Nathria being tortured horribly because he's so full of pride and anger and self-denial that his anima is the sweetest that they've ever tasted, and he has so much power in the living world that he has so much anima in the afterlife that they can just drain him. Same with Garrosh, and we'll go over him as a failed atonement ritual. So we free him from that and we bring him with us back. The first step in the atonement ritual is to remove the sin stone from yourself. And the way that you do that is accept the fact that there is a sin stone. Accept the fact that people have given you the denomination of a sinner. The second that you accept that there is a problem is the first step to fixing the problem. So you have the sin stone removed from you by accepting the fact that there is a problem. And then after that point, you now have to deal with the sins that exist there. The problems that Kael'thas had was impatience and a willingness to sacrifice others in order to make his own life better. So over time, he is forced into situations where he has the choices of either sacrificing himself or sacrificing others, and he makes the choice to sacrifice himself in those situations, which helps in the atonement, helps in becoming ready for the atonement ritual. And there are times where he has to choose between gaining power for himself or protecting others. He chooses to protect others. And so then he has beaten the sins that are holding him down. So then he will enter the atonement ritual. And the atonement ritual is ripping the anima from inside of you that holds the sins that you have committed. This tends to lead to these sins coalescing as existing creatures that will then attack you and attack the person that is committing the atonement ritual, which is why generally an atonement ritual is a group activity where they have people killing those sins, and while that's happening, this anima is then stored and fed to the people who enjoy that flavor, or given to the afterlife in order to keep it running, or blah 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 blah. And now that we've gone over a successful quote-unquote atonement ritual, we will go over other people's atonement rituals. Some people will simply go for someone whose sin stone is easily manipulatable. Like if the sin stone you have is like, this person took way too many bribes, someone who wants you in a position of power but wants complete control over you will go, hey, listen, I'll turn you into a Venthyr, and you won't have to go through any torture as long as you do what I say. And that person will go, oh yeah, sure. So they'll go through the atonement ritual. Instead of accepting their sins, they will just be ripped out from them in the most painful way possible. And then they will be turned into a Venthyr while still not accepting their sins, which means their sin stone now holds great power over them. So the person who sired you can now effectively kill you at any time they want because they are in control of your sin stone, so they have full control over you. And now let's go over the most failed atonement ritual possible. Garrosh Hellscream, the man who dropped nukes because it was the funny thing to do. He was so powerful in life that he was effectively an endless font of anima for the people of Revendreth, which means he spent all of his time being tortured. Anytime someone came in and went, hey, do you feel bad about the things you did? He would laugh and say, turn the torture machine back on. It's better than listening to you speak. Eventually, he decides I'm done being tortured and kills himself by blowing himself up alongside the person torturing him. Yeah. And finally, we have Ash Ghouls and the Ember Ward. As we've said before, vampires are weak to sunlight. It's World of Warcraft, so they decided to make that literal. The actual power of the light is strong against Venthyr, and there is an area that exists because the Venthyr in the past invaded some holy aspect of the afterlife, and that led to the holy afterlife chasing them back to Revendreth when they lost. And they brought Naru with them, which are embodiments of light. And the Venthyr pushed them out, but decided to not keep the fight going. but trapped a Naru in a section of the Revendreth area. And the light was so angry at the Venthyr, like the element itself, that it decided to work harder in order to hurt Venthyr, which eventually led the Venthyr to have a weakness to the light. So now there is a Naru trapped in the Revendreth area that Sire Denathrius and the people below him have built magnifying glasses around it so that they can point that light at whoever they want, and it will, as you can see in the image, erase you from existence if you're under it long enough. The first thing that goes is all of your supernatural strength. The second thing that goes is your mind. The third thing that goes is your existence. And the people who have lost their mind to the light are called ash ghouls. They cover themselves in as much as possible, so generally they look like mummies in order to avoid it. And if you've ever sinned hard enough as a Venthyr, you will be sent to the Ember Ward, where the light is just kind of funneling down on top of you. But if they decide they really don't like you, they'll move one of the magnifying glasses and point it directly at you. Any questions?
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah?
God, yeah, I think you covered everything that I was gonna ask about.
I tried.
You said that Venthyr can teleport by disassembling their anima and then replacing it further. Is there any sort of restriction to that?
Lore-wise, no, not really, except distance, which is what the mirrors are for. And also you have to have line of sight of where you're going. Because imagine tearing yourself apart and then just kind of throwing yourself willy-nilly somewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
No questions?
No.
Oh, okay. Nathrezim. They're great. We love Nathrezim. They've done nothing wrong. We love them. We said there were only 2 vampires for World of Warcraft. I was lying. We love the Nathrezim. They've done nothing wrong. Antediluvians and the clans. So now we're going over the masquerade.
Oh, of course. We're just skipping over.
Antediluvians are the progenitors of the 13 clans as they are today. They were the strongest vampires who survived the flood. You know the flood I'm talking about?
No.
You know Noah's Ark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. In the world of darkness, God is real.
Of course.
And the flood happened, and these are the vampires who survived that flood. And they then went on to sire children who made the clans as they are now. And of course, this isn't true. Whatever. Clans are groups of vampires that other vampires or hunters can use to classify you when you are turned/embraced. They call it embracing. And the groups that are most likely to help you when you run screaming to their door because the sun is rising. It is the main way others know generally what powers you have, what bane you have, and what is your clan's compulsion. So, a bane is something that your Antediluvian did that you are now cursed with. Your compulsion is something that your Antediluvian really wanted, so now you really want it. And your powers are powers. You've heard of those before, right?
Powers.
Powers?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
How did they survive the flood?
Any other questions?
Oh, of course. So, back in the days of the Bible, there were just vampires out there.
Yep.
The flood happened. Was the flood to get rid of the vampires?
Any other questions?
Okay. No.
All right. Sects, aka vampire government. There are 3 major sects. I'm sure there are billions of smaller sects, but we're talking about the 3 that are the main ones. The first one, and their symbol you can see above them, is the Camarilla. The Camarilla are the largest and most influential sect within the masquerade. They're an old school feudalistic society where you can know exactly what you are to do and where you stand in it. They believe they are the only sect that should exist and do not allow the Antediluvians to be discussed or believed in. the concept of the Antediluvians is kind of a problem for the Camarilla, because the people who are high in the Camarilla want to be the highest vampires in existence. And if you believe, oh, there's someone higher than the highest of the Camarilla, that's an issue.
What?
What part of that was difficult to understand?
They want to be the highest, but if they're the highest, then it's a problem.
If there are people who are higher than them, that's a problem. Which the Antediluvians would be, because they are the sire of your sire of your sire of your sire of your sire.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, the Antediluvians are the
13 vampires.
The first 13 vampires that survived the flood.
Yeah.
And then they made their clan.
The people who they sired carry on their weaknesses and strengths, and that classifies you as what clan you're in.
So there's 13 clans.
There's 13 clans.
From the 13 original vampires.
From the 13 vampires, strongest vampires who survived the flood.
Okay.
There are a bunch of other clans that no one cares about, and there are other Antediluvians that no one remembers. But these are the 13 strongest who we remember.
And so the Camarilla is the
real government of the vampires.
Okay.
The other two that exist aren't governments. The second one is the Anarchs. Believe it or not, they like anarchy. They are small in number due to humans finding them easier to hunt, and the Camarilla love killing them. So imagine someone who goes, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, to a vampire government. They're Anarchs.
Of course.
And then, of course, last but not least, we have the Sabbat. Sabbat are Anarchs that decided death is preferable to subservience, so they seek the destruction of the Camarilla by any means necessary.
Here, I'll get out of the way of the...
Yeah, that's what the Sabbat looks like.
Oh,
we're just gonna cover that. We don't support terrorist organizations here. All right, cover it again.
Okay.
So yeah, we have the Camarilla, which is government. We have the Anarchs, who go, I'd rather live in the woods than deal with your bullshit. And we have the Sabbat, who bomb government buildings. Any questions or comments?
I like how the Camarilla is like, it's a cross with the circle on top, showing, oh, it's the moon?
Mm-hmm.
Showing that they're like the top, the best, the biggest. The Anarchs, their symbol is very sloppily made.
They go their own way. And the Sabbat is more organized. They've got like a sword coming out of... They flipped it. Mm-hmm.
The circle is now spiked.
Mm-hmm.
The arrows are now like the blocking part of a sword, and then it's a sword.
Yeah.
Instead of an arrow.
Yeah. They're stabbing the circle and it is below them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat. A lot of very easy to understand lore if you look at it.
Mm-hmm. Symbolism,
thank you. Why are you standing next to the Anarchs?
Don't worry about it. Is there any other questions? Or?
No.
All right. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to read off what this clan looks for in the people that they embrace. I'm going to read off their powers. I'm going to tell you their bane and their compulsion. And then I want you to guess what this clan is like, okay?
Okay.
So Clan Brujah, they're a member of the Anarch clan. To be clear, every clan has people in every sect. I'm just going off of what generally their clan, like leadership, says what clan that they're in or what sect they're in.
Okay.
So Clan Brujah. To be embraced is to be chosen at semi-random from counterculture groups or terrorist organizations. Death is common due to having no one around to teach them vampire society, due to Brujah sires not liking the responsibility of having to teach people. Their powers are celerity, potence, and presence. Celerity is better senses, enhanced senses. Potence is increased strength. And presence is the ability to, like, put your presence out more. People notice you. People listen to you more. Their bane is a violent temper. They are much more likely to frenzy than other kindred. Vampires in World of Darkness call each other kindred because they're all vampires and they're kin. Compulsion. They feel strongly about rebellion. Anyone they deem above them needs to be taught that they aren't. And it's very important that I say anyone they feel they believe is above them. This person could just be stronger than them and want to be their equal, but a Brujah will look at them and go, "You think you're fucking better than me, don't you, you piece of shit?" Frenzy is effectively like blood-drunk madness.
Okay. I was gonna ask that.
What do you think the Brujah are like?
I think they are very violent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would want to hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you look so happy? It seems like they wouldn't really want to be in a clan with each other. Because they'd just be like, "Oh, hey, you're in this clan, let's fight, see who's stronger. Oh, hey, I'm stronger. Fucking die."
You're 100% correct that Clan Brujah love fighting each other, but do you know what they love fighting more than each other?
Other clans?
Every other clan.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Any questions or comments?
I like how their symbol is just the anarchy symbol, but circled and upside down.
So real for that. There's no other questions?
No.
Okay. Next is Clan Gangrel. They're also anarch. Oh, by the way, just want to be clear. Remember, these are anarchs. They are not Sabbat. They are horrible people who love to do bad things to people above them. They do not bomb as many governmental buildings as they need to in order to be Sabbat. Clan Gangrel.
They just bomb the other clans.
They are also anarchs. To be embraced, one must have a strong will to survive no matter the cost, or those that will live in the wilderness and survive for long periods of time. Their abilities are Animalism, Fortitude, and Protean. Animalism is the ability to commune with animals, or like better control animals. Fortitude is toughness. They can take a lot of damage, or their skin is just like thicker than other vampires. And Protean, which means that they are more capable of changing the shape of their body. With Gangrels, they tend to shape their body more animalistically. Their bane is they gain bestial features when they frenzy, so if they're ever blood drunk, they are an immediate masquerade, like break, because if you look at a Gangrel who is blood drunk, they look non-human. Their compulsion is feral impulses. The most common way to resolve any dispute is violence. If you get in an argument with a Gangrel and it lasts longer than like 2 seconds, they're punching you in the face. Tell me what you think of the Gangrel.
Yeah, they just sound like a pack of wild dogs or wolves. I need that picture of the werewolf tearing his shirt off. How often can they use their Protean ability? Is it once per fight?
What?
It's a Pokemon joke.
Okay.
Yeah, it feels more like they just do what they need to do to survive, and they don't really commune with other clans that often.
Actually wrong. Gangrels are a pretty big mercenary faction. They will tend to be bought out by other people. They live in the woods, generally. Mm-hmm. Like, they love nature. And they are one of the only clans that a werewolf will admit to respecting. Werewolves see Gangrels as kind of like a shittier version of themselves.
Fair. Honestly, they seem kind of neat.
They're not. Also, I want to be clear about something. Celerity is super speed, not better reflexes. It does lead to better reflexes, but it's super speed, not improved that stuff.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like Clan Gangrel.
Yeah, they're fucking creatures. Malkavian are a part of the Camarilla faction. To be embraced is to be neurodivergent in a way that makes you more accepting of having your mind twisted by the psychic network. Their abilities are Auspex, Dominate, and Obfuscate. Obfuscate is typically like concealing yourself or deceiving minds in order to not be able to perceive you. Dominate is a magical ability to control other people's minds, or better ability to control the willpower of other people. And Auspex is supernatural senses. What I thought Celerity was, but I was wrong about it. Their bane is fractured perspective. Mental illness within the psychic network is everyone's to bear, and their compulsion is delusion. They're right about everything all the time. What do you think of the Malkavian?
That might be me. I am a little neurodivergent. I'm a little autistic. So, fuck. They sound like they would be like spies or thieves, maybe even possibly assassins.
What gives you that idea?
Obfuscate.
Uh-huh.
So they get all stealthy like.
Uh-huh.
If they run into trouble, they dominate.
Oh. Yeah, no, the problem that we're going to run into with the powers is there are a lot of things combined into one term. Obfuscate allows you to fuck with other people's heads.
Oh.
It is also a way to make people not notice you, but the Malkavians mainly use it to fuck with other people's heads.
Oh, okay. Kind of sounds like they would be like higher society.
So, you're so far off. Fractured perspective. Mental illness within the psychic network is everyone's to bear. To be a Malkavian is to have the mental, voice of every other Malkavian also in your head.
Oh, so they're crazy.
Absolutely crazy. There are upsides to being a part of a psychic network where everyone's, brain is linked. You can see the future. The problem is your compulsion of being right all the time also makes it so that you see futures that won't happen.
Of course.
You can see the future that's actually happened 3 minutes ago. You can see the future that actually happened 3 years from now. And you can see the future where someone's going to stab someone you know, so you try to tell them. But because Gary on the other side of the planet is having a psychotic fit, all you can say is, oh God, you're going to choke on a cheeseburger in 3 minutes. You are one mind in a sea of thousands where the people that you want to embrace are more mentally ill than you are because it adds a new flavor to the soup of mental illness.
Okay.
Oh, and the reason why they're Camarilla, they love their Antediluvian because guess what? Their Antediluvian is in the psychic network. So they just talk about their Antediluvian, but the Camarilla are perfectly fine with it because they're Malkavians. They're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah, and Malkavians will just enter your head.
Of course.
Yeah, it's bad.
I'm gonna make you watch the entire Cars movie in 2 seconds.
There you go. Alright. The Nosferatu. They are a member of the Camarilla. To be embraced is to exist as an outcast from society, such as drug addicts and the homeless, so that they can be better used to being an outcast once they are embraced. But out of spite, they will also turn the exceptionally beautiful. Their abilities are animalism, obfuscate, and potence. Animalism, as I've said before, is the ability to better communicate with animals. Obfuscate is the ability to hide yourself or deceive the mind in order to not perceiving you. They use that aspect of it rather than the fucking with people's heads part of obfuscate. And potence, which is super strength. Their bane is repulsiveness. When embraced, they will mutate horribly and painfully into something that is only ever noticeable as a Nosferatu. And their compulsion is cryptophilia, an intense need to know secrets. What do you think this clan is?
So, when you say when they're embraced, if someone hugs them?
To be turned into a vampire is to be embraced.
Oh, so when they get turned into a vampire, they just get super ugly, like Nosferatu from SpongeBob.
Yes.
Okay. God. Yeah, they kind of just sound like dicks.
In what way?
They turn the exceptionally beautiful out of spite.
Yeah.
But they also turn outcasts, I guess, as
the people that would actually fit in their clan, yeah.
Yeah. So, God, it sounds like they're kind of both. It seems like you kind of like them.
Wow, they're a clan of people. It's almost like they're not a monolith, and there's some bassholes in every clan.
Bassholes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like they'd probably be pretty close with one another.
They are the closest clan to each other, yes.
And they probably like animals too? Like bats? Do they like bats?
They like bats and rats because they exist in the sewers. So, you know how you call the Malkavian a spy faction? This is the spy faction. The Nosferatu are an automatic masquerade break. If a human sees a Nosferatu, the only thing they will think is, oh, monsters are real. Which means that if a Nosferatu is ever seen anywhere, they will be put to death.
Of course.
So, they're very good at stealth, and they are one of the best users of obfuscate in existence. And their compulsion of needing to know secrets at all times. If you exist as a vampire, the rule is there's a Nosferatu in the room. You don't know where, you don't know what they're doing. It's just the rule that if you are a vampire, there is a Nosferatu 5 feet away from you. And you will never know where they are unless they tell you.
Huh.
They can like communicate with rats in order to figure out information. They also mostly feed from rats. A Nosferatu drinking human blood is considered above them, so a lot of vampires will not give them anything. Everyone hates Nosferatu. So that's why they're the clan that is the closest to each other, because all of them understand what it feels like to be excluded from everything else.
Do they hurt the rats when they feed from them?
Yes, they kill them.
No! Rats are cute. Rats are friends.
They are friends. They're also the only food they get.
Fair enough.
All right, any other questions?
No.
All right. I'm trying my best to be vague because the option of one of the recommendations is to go deeper into a clan. So I'll tell you about the important people in their clan and information about them. So right now I'm just giving you a vague overview and also not to take too long. Okay. Toreador. They're a member of the Camarilla. To be embraced is to have a person tell you everything you have ever wanted to hear and be pampered, and at some point become entirely dependent on this person. Once turned, you will have a best by date before you are thrown away for whatever new interest your sire will have. They have aspects, which is supernatural senses. They have celerity, which is super speed, and they have presence, which is an ability to be noticed and an ability to emotionally manipulate. Their bane is aesthetic compulsion. They have to live somewhere or be surrounded by things that meet their very specific tastes. And their compulsion is obsession. They will focus and think of one thing till a new obsession appears. Tell me what you think.
They sound like they'd be the high society. Like they'd live in manors and throw parties and be just lavish and all that. Fuck, I had a question in my head. So what happens after they're quote unquote thrown away?
Hopefully the person who turned you has taught you what you need to know about vampire society. Otherwise, you are a member of a clan that only wants to be surrounded by the best of the best, and you don't know what you're doing, which is a death sentence.
So if you do know what you're doing, do you just find a new obsession and have someone become dependent on you?
You're a member of their clan. Of course you're facing their compulsion.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to be pampered, but I don't want to be thrown away.
That is to be a Toreador.
Interesting. Yeah.
They are the most beautiful clan. Everyone in their clan is unnaturally beautiful. They have artists. They have builders. Everyone in their clan is doing something to beautify or perfect something. The people who are turned by Toreador are beautiful and smart. Just as beautiful as the people that the Nosferatu will turn. There are times when a Toreador will claim someone, and surprise, they were turned into a Nosferatu. Hilarious.
Tragic.
Hilarious. Any questions or comments?
No.
Do you like how their thing is a rose?
Mm-hmm.
Tremere! They're a member of the Camarilla. To be embraced is difficult for a person to pick up on due to your sire having to pass through rigorous testing to figure out if turning you is worth the clan's time or not. But generally those turned are intellectuals and those that either set strict rules that they enforce or are devoted followers of the rules. Their abilities are aspects, which is increased supernatural senses, blood sorcery, which is the ability to use magic easier, and dominate, which is the ability to use vampire magic to control other people. Their bane is they can't bloodbind other kindred. Bloodbinding is effectively, I think, I haven't looked too deep into this, I will if it comes up. Bloodbinding, I think, is like sharing blood with another vampire in order to form a contract with this other vampire so that they will do something for you, and once the bloodbinding is kept, then it goes away. And then compulsion is perfectionism. They have to have everything they do meet their very specific standards. I want to be clear about something. This is the clan of warlocks and witches. Like, they are mainly a magic focused thing. And now you can tell me what your guess is, because I couldn't find a way to put in that they love magic.
They're the clan of little bitch baby nerds.
They are a member of the Camarilla, yeah.
So they're like the magic school.
They're a magic school that loves to have other people follow the rules that they set out, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like perfectionists.
There you go.
So.
Is that all you have to say? They're rule-following magic users?
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about them.
They are effectively like lawyer magicians. They're the ones that set up all the laws in the Camarilla, and if you break the laws, the Tremeres are the one who love to tell you that you broke the law.
Of course.
And they're very angry at the fact that they can't bloodbind people, so they take that out on the people who are under them a lot. Because, like, I would have just told you what to do and bloodbinded you to do it, but because I can't, I know you're going to follow the rules, but just to be sure, I'm going to cast spells at you because I want to.
Of course.
And you ready to move on, or any more questions about Clan Tremere?
No, I think that was everything.
Clan Ventrue, a part of the Camarilla. To be embraced is to have been having meetings with a very wealthy person who has been asking questions about your business and you personally, then telling you how you can rule your people, make more money, be more successful, and after having passed their tests, then you will be embraced. Their abilities are Dominate, which is vampire magic to control other people, Fortitude, which is increased defenses, and Presence, which is the ability to be more noticeable and more listened to. Their bane is pure blood taste. They can only drink from those that match their very specific palate, and their compulsion is arrogance, a need to be in charge and be obeyed. What do you think? Who are they?
God, the only thing I can really think of are like CEOs. Like big business companies who just want more money, more stuff.
What were the CEOs of like feudalism?
Kings and queens?
They are the clan of kings.
Oh, okay. What's blue blood?
Blue blood taste?
Yeah.
They can only drink from things that match their very specific palate?
What does that mean?
Oh, it generally just means like the royals have blue blood. You bleed red, whereas the royals bleed blue.
So they can only drink blood from royals?
They can only drink blood from things that match their very specific palate. If their palate is twins, then they can only drink the blood of twins that have been commingled in a goblet. If their flavor is specifically 22-year-old blondes, there you go. If it's only the homeless, there you go.
Huh. Do they pick their specific taste?
Do you think they pick their specific taste?
No.
Because it's their bane.
But how do they figure it out?
Whatever doesn't make you throw up.
I guess they just have like a bunch of jars and be like, alright, you have to taste all 200 of these different bloods and tell me what you like.
That's what you think?
Yeah. The sword and the scepter. Yeah. So do they like control the kings and queens and the CEOs and tell them what to do, or are they the ones in charge?
Both.
Oh, okay.
There are some businesses that require humans to be there, so they generally have humans that they have control over. And if it can be a vampire business, then generally they'll be in charge. No matter what, they're always in charge. It just depends on how they're doing it.
Okay.
And to be clear about some other things, the aesthetic compulsion of the Toreador, it doesn't have to be like high class. If they like to live in trash, then that is their aesthetic compulsion. It's just, do you think a Toreador is going to last long smelling like trash in a clan that loves perfection.
Fair.
Or,
I mean, have you seen that video of the dumpster that's been converted?
No. Alright, anything else about the Ventrue?
No.
Okay. Next is the Banu Haqim, members of the Camarilla. To be embraced is to be chosen due to your incredible deduction and investigative abilities, a need to find the truth, and an ability to sacrifice for the greater good. Their abilities are Blood Sorcery, which is easier to use magic, Celerity, which is super speed, and Obfuscate, which they use for the stealth properties of it. Their Bane is they crave the blood of the wicked, which means that they are one of the clans most known to diablerize other kindred. Their Compulsion is to pass judgment. They seek to punish any wrongdoing by drinking their blood. So if someone were to steal something and a Banu Haqim is there, they're like, I gotta drink from that guy.
What does diablerize mean?
Diablerize is to drink the blood of another vampire. Souls exist, and drinking the blood of another vampire is taking in their soul, which will give you a lot of power, but it's not good mentally.
Ooh. I didn't know they could drink the blood of other vampires.
Yeah. They do not like it. The Camarilla hate diablerization, but the problem is the Banu Haqim are... I'm sure you'll figure it out.
They're like detectives.
Yes, they are the police force of the Camarilla, which I guess it's fine if they drink a little bit of blood on the side as long as they're doing what the Camarilla tell them to do.
Ah, so the corrupt cops are the ones that drink the blood of other vampires.
And all the cops are corrupt. That is correct.
Fair enough. I need to play some of these games.
You can if you want to.
Any
other thing about Banu Haqim?
I feel like they would have trouble with drinking the blood of wrongdoers, because there's not like a bunch of people committing crimes all the time unless they're like in Gotham.
What are you talking about?
You can't just like...
God is real. Sin is real. And they can smell it in your blood.
Okay, you know what? You make a good point there. But, like, how bad of a wrongdoing does it have to be? Like, oh, yeah.
I promise you they don't care.
My neighbor has an apple tree and it slightly hangs over my house, so I took one of the apples. That's wrongdoing and they'll drink your blood?
But, yeah, but generally, like, they don't care about the ongoings of humans.
Oh, they just smell the blood.
They're surrounded by vampires, and being a vampire is one of the greatest sins imaginable. Why would they worry about you when they have the greatest sinners surrounding them and they just have to wait for them to fuck up in a small way that the Camarilla don't like so they can rip you open?
Okay.
Though they will just walk down the street and go, you smell weird, and then just grab you. Anything else?
No.
The clan, the ministry. They are an anarch group. To be embraced is to be a cultist or a religious extremist. Their abilities are Obfuscate, which they use to fuck with minds, Presence, which is the ability to be more noticeable and get your point across, and Protean is the ability to change your body in some way or manipulate your body. Their Bane is they abhor light in all its form, and sunlight is even more effective against them. Their Compulsion is transgression, the need to convince people to break their most fundamental rules. This is a religious sect. They worship Set, the god, like the Egyptian god, who was a vampire.
Okay, of course he was a vampire.
Yeah.
I like their symbol.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Whirlipede, the Pokemon. Yeah, they just sound like religious zealots.
They are indeed religious zealots who will just walk up to people and go, all right, I've looked into your brain and I've noticed that the one thing you don't want to do at all is eat babies. Here is a week-long seminar where we are going to have a baby in front of you and no other food. Eat it!
You're gonna have to eat that baby.
Oh, and the ministry is one of the only clans that accepts other clans into their clan. If you show up to the ministry and go like, I reject my old clan and I want to be a part of the ministry, they will accept you. That doesn't give you their Bane or Compulsion or anything. It's just, you are now a Tremere, but you're in the clan of the ministry.
Tremere?
Yeah. The Tremere.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like it would probably benefit them to have vampires from other clans to do the things that they can't do.
Sure.
Okay.
Anything else about the ministry?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And we have the Camarilla, or the Hecate. Hecata? The Hecata from the Camarilla. To be embraced is to be a part of one of the clans within a clan. To be part of one of the clans within a clan's family or be influential in other affluent families. Their abilities are Auspex, which is increased senses, Fortitude, which is increased strength, and Oblivion, which is... Oh god, their use of the Oblivion is like necromancy. Yeah. The Hecata use the Oblivion in order to enhance their necromancy. Their Bane is Painful Kiss. When being drained by them, it is excruciating when it is supposed to be pleasant. If you are drunk by a vampire in World of Darkness, it is a very soothing experience, unless they're from the Hecata. And their compulsion is mobility, a very strong drive to investigate or be surrounded by death or dead things.
Morbidity.
Yeah.
You said mobility.
Yeah.
First off, their symbol looks like a transformer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's 3 faces! I see it now.
Yeah.
So they're like a family within a family within a family within a family.
They were a bunch of small clans that went through a ritual in order to all combine into one clan under a Antediluvian. That doesn't exist.
God, how do I word this? Yeah, they just kind of sound like outcasts, I guess. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't seem like there's much going on with them. The Oblivion just sounds like, old god stuff.
It's necromancy.
Yeah. Morbidity. So... Yeah.
The main clan was the Giovanni. They were a mafia family that became vampires. And then they got a bunch of other families, which are influential in the mafia world or mob world, or in Japan, the Yakuza world, and started turning them as well, and then combined all their families into one. So they're a big mafia, crime lord, necromancy family.
What's it called? They'd work in a morgue?
No, they're vampires. They can just take dead bodies. Why would they need to work in a morgue?
You make an excellent point. Okay.
They can also just live in a crypt. Anything else about the Hecata?
No.
The Lasombra. They work for the Sabbat. You remember the Sabbat? Our first clan that's aligned with the Sabbat? The Camarilla are the government. The Anarchs just don't like the government. And the Sabbat are terrorists.
Right.
The Lasombra. To be embraced is to match exactly what your sire wants from you, and then having your livelihood destroyed brick by brick over the course of years in order to test your willpower. And if you pass, you will be embraced. They have Dominate, which is magically able to control other people. Oblivion, which they use to control shadows and shadow magic. And Potence, which is super strength. Super strength. Their Bane is they don't cast reflections or show up on cameras. They just kind of leave a shadowy smudge instead of their actual appearance, which means if they show up on camera, it's a masquerade break, which the Camarilla don't like at all. And their compulsion is ruthlessness. They will do anything to achieve their goals. Failure is never an option. So what do you think?
I don't get why they have a crown.
They're the royalty of the Sabbat. They believe themselves to be above everyone else, to the point where they are willing to kill the people that say that they are above them.
I guess, yeah, you can be the kings and queens of the terrorists.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I like the idea of shadow magic, but the rest of it is just I don't skip with that.
Yeah.
So
when your compulsion is you will do anything to achieve your goals, failure is not an option. You do tend to bomb a lot of Camarilla organizations.
Yeah.
Anything else about the Lasombra?
Yes, actually. So they don't cast reflections or show up on camera. So the other vampires do?
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So are they actually like shadowy figures?
No.
Or is that just their vampire magic causes that to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
God doesn't like them, so their bane makes them more difficult to handle on cameras. Yeah. Clan Ravnos. They are a mercenary. They generally just kind of work with any clan. They don't really care. To be embraced is to be an adrenaline junkie, a trailblazer, and an outcast. Their abilities are animalism, able to communicate with animals, obfuscate, the ability to fuck with people's minds or be hidden, and presence, the ability to be more listened to. Their bane is doomed. They need to be constantly moving from one place to the next. If you sleep within like 10 miles of the last place that you slept, you feel terrible. And their compulsion is to tempt fate.
What does that mean?
They're adrenaline junkies.
Oh.
If there's a way to do something safely, they would rather kill you than do that.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a mercenary to me.
The problem that we run into is this is a redraft of a faction that was a very racist stereotype of a certain group of people within Europe. So the rework is kind of light, and I don't feel like getting into it.
That's very fair.
So yeah, anything about Ravnos?
No.
All right.
Very simple.
Yeah. I don't know how to say their name. Tzimisce. They're from the Sabbat. I think I misspelled Sabbat, but I don't care. To be embraced is to strike the fancy of your sire with excellency. They will set into motion your birth 4 generations ago just to create you to be sired. Their abilities are animalism. They can communicate with animals. Dominate. They have magical vampire abilities to control your mind. And protean. They are the best users of protean. They change not only their own body, but other people's bodies. Their bane is grounded. They need to be surrounded by whatever meant the most to them as a human, and they don't want to move it. And their compulsion is covetous. If they want something, they have to get it. What do you think?
So, I don't understand the embrace. So, like, or do they have, like, time magic? To, like, have it be like, oh yeah, I like you, so 4 generations ago you came into existence? Or you have to be with them for 4 generations?
Are you able to guess what this clan is about? Because if I explain that, I'm just telling you what the clan is.
Yeah, it looks like an Ouroboros for their symbol.
They do like dragons.
So, I don't. I'm sorry.
The Tzimisce are a clan of old, like, law followers. They love the old ways. They're the best users of protean because they are vampires who believe that vampires are at the top of every totem pole in existence, and they want to push that as much as possible. So if they feel that their arms don't reach as far as they want them to be perfect, they'll change that and blah, 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 blah. They will show up in human lives. They hate humans, but because humans are what become vampires, they will find a family that has aspects of what they like, and they will find another family with aspects that they like, and then dominate them in order to breed, in order to have children, and then determine what traits they would like from another family, or if this one is good enough. And then they'll have them get with another person. And then 4 generations later, there will be a child who fits exactly what they want. And if they do well enough in life, then they will be turned.
Jesus.
Any questions, comments?
No, I think you explained that pretty good.
They are a clan of dragons. The reason why they're in the Sabbat is because they don't feel like the Camarilla what they want vampire society to be.
I understand the dragon metaphor now.
Yeah.
Like how a dragon sits on a pile of gold.
Yeah. All right, you ready for the next one?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last thing we have are the two clans that everyone hates, like vampires. The Catiff are vampires without clan that sometimes have hybridized powers of multiple clan. Their bane is they are outcast vampires. They're outcasts. Vampires that know them wish they didn't. Effectively, if one day you're just out at a club, drunk or high off your ass, and you wake up and you're suddenly a vampire, you have no idea what clan you're in, the vampire blood within you is weak or hybridized in some way, you're a Catiff. You're just kind of like a vampire lesser than the main clans, but you have some hybrid powers that are cool. So like you can have some potence, some fortitude, some obfuscate, some oblivion, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
What do you think of the Catiff?
Yeah, they sound like just a mixed bag.
Yeah. And then we have the Thin Blood. Thin Bloods are half or lesser vampires who, through some twist of fate, their sire's bloodline does not move on to them. They can gain a clan by diablerizing a vampire and eating their soul, thus making them the clan of the vampire that they ate. But as is a rule in all Camarilla faction, all half-bloods must be branded upon recognition. So if a branded has a bloodline, then they must be killed because they committed diablerization in order to become in a clan.
Jesus Christ.
So Thin Bloods typically come about because a vampire will like take a little bit of their blood and then like water it down and then force that into a human, so that the vampire blood is so thin within them that they're like half a vampire. Thin Bloods aren't affected by the sun. They have they're very Dhampir coded. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say they sound like they would try and mark me as one, but
if you get embraced and the vampire dies like right as they start, I think that can also turn you into Thin Blood, which is funny. Okay. So like if you were killing a vampire and they bite you, like they're not Thin Blood now.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question about all of the clans.
Uh-huh.
What would be the clan that would be most likely to turn a vegan because it's funny? Or a baby? The Ministry?
Mm-hmm. What would be better than to turn a vegan who doesn't want to eat animals into something that can only feed on animals?
Or people.
Animals are people. People
Fair
are animals.
Enough. What about a baby?
Why would you turn a baby? What would you gain from that?
Because it's really funny.
I guess the Ministry as well. They are just kind of evil.
Because like a baby wouldn't age, so it would stay a baby.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Do you think they would grow fangs? Because babies don't have teeth.
Well, yes, they would grow fangs, but no, they wouldn't grow. They would just be put down. There's no reason to have a baby vampire.
Oh. Other than it'd be really funny. Okay.
All right. Any other questions about the Catiff, Thin Bloods, or the like whole thing in existence now?
No.
All right. Now your 3 topics for the next interview with the Dhampir. We couldn't get in contact with any vampires for this, so I'll sadly have to read it. For the Masquerade, you have magic. You have the Masquerade itself, and you can choose like 1 or 2 clans, and I'll give you way deeper information about them, the Antediluvians, and important vampires within their clan. For the real, you have the Chupacabra, you have spiders, and you have Vlad the Impaler. And for myth, you have Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, and Harry Potter.
Okay. So once I pick them, you'll do the voice?
No, I'm not doing the voice.
Why?
Just tell me what you want.
But it's funny.
Just tell me what you want.
Okay. I think Magic the Gathering would be really interesting.
For the myth?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the real... Vlad the Impaler.
Vlad the Impaler.
Wait. Hold on. What's the difference between Magic and Masquerade? And
like vampire magic.
Oh, vampire. Okay. Yeah. And then for myth, I want...
Oh, you chose blood, okay.
Yeah, blood. For myth... I'm gonna say Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, you chose magic. Okay, like from the...
No. Magic from the Masquerade.
Okay, yeah. So I'll go more into vampire magic. Got it.
Yeah.
Blood, and then you chose myth, Yu-Gi-Oh! Got it.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna do Magic the Gathering, but I doubt there's a Miku vampire.
That's true.
So that would just make me sad.
That's real.
That's real.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the second episode of Interview with the Dhampir. Double the length of the last episode. I'll either determine if I want to keep it at the same size or shorten it to the length of the first episode. Who knows? I really enjoy looking stuff up, so that gives me a lot of stuff to put on the PowerPoint. All right. Anything you want to say before we go?
No. Well, okay, yes, there's stuff I want to say. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys hanging around. I really enjoy this. I like learning more about the stuff, even though I got really bad memory issues. It's very fun. So, and it makes my slimy husband happy, so that makes me happy. So yeah.
All right, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.